This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, how can you tell an anxious farmer? Oh, right now they're all anxious. Also, is it time to fix a 90-year-old lock? It was time 50 years ago. And what is faster in rural America, the internet or coffee shop gossip? Of course it's coffee shop gossip. That and other ponderable questions on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. I know you've been waiting to plant. Some field work, yes, you've got that in, but with the prospect of rain hanging over our heads all this week, discretion may have been the better part of planting. I've talked to two of our crop guys, and we'll hear what they have to say just a little bit later on in the show. Here's a hint. Ready, set, wait. And we're still waiting on the Farm Bill and other news out of Washington. I've been reading the Farm Policy blog, and just when you think you've spotted a trend, guess what? Nothing. But there is legislation progressing through Congress, and one bill deals with the Mississippi and the infrastructure needed to get grain to market. I talked to Rodney Weinzel of the Illinois Corn Association for more information. With me now is Rodney Weinzel. He's the president of the Illinois Corn Growers Association. And Rodney, recently, you expressed some concern about a piece of legislation that's in front of the Senate at the moment, the River Act of 2013.
Yes. Every few years, Fred, the Congress passes what's called the Water Resources Development Act, or also known as WRDA Act. And within this bill, it deals with the inland waterways system. It deals with ports. It's the water highway bill, for lack of a better. A lot of people have heard of the highway bill. This is for the inland waterways system. And Chairwoman Boxer has marked up a bill in the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. And that bill is moving through the process, probably to go to the full Senate in the next couple weeks. And what we would like to see is additional components added to the bill, similar to the components that is in what's called the River Act, and introduced by Senator Casey from Pennsylvania. And essentially, the components around the Casey bill, the River Act, relates directly to the river and will move forward efforts to modernize the lock systems on the inland waterways throughout the U.S., in particular, in our case, the Ohio River, the Mississippi River, and the Illinois River.
Now, how important is it for these locks and dams to be modernized?
Well, if we look at like the Illinois River, there's 8 locks on the Illinois River. All of these locks and dams were built in the 1930s. So they were built by the Corps of Engineers, state of Illinois, with a design life of around 50 years. And we're pushing to a point where we're about 30 years past their design life. So what happens is, just like if somebody has a 1980s car versus a 2008, you end up with more maintenance, more expense. It's not as efficient. Same thing with these locks. The locks are smaller than what the barge and the towboats could use. The equipment in the locks, the concrete, is beginning to have a lot of maintenance issues. And just like in a car, at some point in time, you reach a point where it's more cost efficient to upgrade the car, just because your maintenance and other costs begin to outstrip the.
Now,
in maintaining a piece of equipment.
Okay. Excuse me there. We had a burp in the signal. You suggest in some literature I read that this is a worldwide competitive situation. Let me rephrase the question, okay?
Yes.
It just doesn't matter to us whether or not they're new. It's a matter of competing with other countries in the world to get grain to market. Is that correct?
That's right. In the U.S., these locks are 50, 60, 70, 80, in some cases 90-year-old locks. And because of their size and the maintenance issues, and sometimes these locks being broke down when line boats and barges are trying to get through, that affects our world competitiveness, not only on ag products, but a lot of other products. So as Brazil, as regions in the Black Sea area continue to modernize their transportation system, our system continues to get older and slower and more expensive. So at some point in time, our competitiveness, as it continues to go down and as the competitiveness of other countries in the world goes up, crosses, and then we become not as competitive as that region of the world.
Now, is this a situation where once built, these locks have been forgotten, or is this a situation that we knew it's coming up and that we just haven't spent the money on it?
I think it's a combination of a couple things. One, kind of out of sight, out of mind from a public standpoint. We don't have train car accidents. We don't have accidents, where we do have accidents between trucks and cars on the highway system, but we never hear of a barge hitting a car. Mm-hmm. Very rarely do we even see them. We cross the bridge. We maybe happen to see one going underneath the bridge on a major transportation artery, whether it's the Mississippi River or the Ohio, but out of sight, out of mind. So the public does not understand how much tonnage, literally millions and millions of tons of freight, move out of sight, out of mind. The most efficient way to move it, the most environmentally beneficial way of moving freight, and obviously a lot less accidents relative to the public at large.
Now, this has been the most we've heard about the Mississippi-Illinois River basin for a long time this winter, with the flood level, the water levels being down and the locks and dams needing repair. Why hasn't this issue come up before?
Well, the issue's been out there before. The last WRDA bill hasn't passed, or was passed in 2007, so it's actually been, nearly 6 years. And thus you usually hear about it when a WRDA bill passes. Congress has not been really efficient in passing a WRDA bill every other year, like has been tradition. So that's one reason. Obviously, budget pressures are becoming greater. And again, it's this kind of out of sight, out of mind. The public, we as a public have a tendency to want to focus on what's going to affect us tomorrow. But we've been less inclined to invest in infrastructure that will benefit our kids, our grandkids. And whether you look at the highway system or you look at our ports, you look at any of the infrastructure that cities deal with relative to wastewater and stormwater, all of our infrastructure needs are great. Yet we as a society have been less interested in longer term issues and have been more focused on what's going to affect us tomorrow.
Well, Rodney, this is certainly a issue we'll be keeping an eye on. Thank you very much for helping us out today. Rodney Weissel, the president of the Illinois Corn Association, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Fred.
Last year, we tried to get our good friend, young Ms. Becker here, out during planting season and failed miserably.
I got to play with pigs.
Well, you can check that off your bucket list, okay? But this year, we're hoping to get Monica out there. The problem is her work boot comes with 6-inch heels.
I don't see that working.
I don't either.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. So you have some numbers for us.
Yes, we do. The NASS is once again reporting that you're doing exactly what you're doing, waiting, and maybe looking for a warmer jacket. Statewide, the temperatures are just a little below normal, averaging 44 degrees, about 3 degrees below normal. But with little rain last week, the fields across the state were drying and everyone is getting close. There was some reported planting of corn in the western part of the state, but everyone else was waiting. Topsoil moisture statewide averaged 1% very short, 6% short, 74% adequate, and 19% surplus. Locally, we're just about the same at 6% short, 76% adequate, and 18% surplus. Subsoil is also doing pretty well at 7% very short, 22% short, 64% adequate, and 7% surplus. Locally, we're at 16% short, 75% adequate, and 9% surplus. So the tiles around here should be running pretty well. As far as acres planted, don't worry about it yet. Something you can think about is the proposed budget submitted Wednesday by President Obama. In it, the president proposed cutting the subsidy to farmers for buying crop insurance. Presently, the government pays 62 cents of every $1 of insurance premium. Last year's farmers paid $4 billion for crop insurance. The government paid $7 billion. The proposed budget has a 3% reduction in the federal subsidy for policies with higher levels of coverage and the 2% in the reduction in the subsidy on harvest price policies that pay more if commodity prices go up. In total, about $1 billion would be saved under these policies. In the coming weeks, you'll have plenty of time behind the wheel staring at your fields. This might be a good time to think about how healthy your soil is. Bob Ellison reports on some soil health basics.
Farmers using soil health management systems are finding their soil to be more drought tolerant. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service is working with farmers to improve soil health and function to help crops survive droughts.
Runoff is a symptom of poor soil function. The more you can capture that water, the better it is, and that's what helps us get through the drought. So healthy soils will be more resilient against drought because they have more organic matter in them.
NRCS gives technical assistance to farmers who want to use no-till planting, crop rotation, and cover crops to help soil stay cooler, wetter, and biologically active.
The cover crops have really helped out this year, especially in this drought situation we're in here in northwestern Ohio. The cover crops allow us to open up the soil, and we're able to get roots down into moisture that's down deep and also down into the nutrients that's down in the soil.
We no-till, and it's similar to what you do in your yard, in your flower bed or your trees. You would mulch that, and we keep the soil cooler and help retain moisture better throughout the season.
We've incorporated things like cover crops on quite a few of the acres, things to encourage the biology and the water infiltration and all those things. It seems like the no-till with the cover crops and stuff really handles that stress better.
For more healthy soil information, contact your local NRCS office. I'm Bob Ellison for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
In some places, Instagram isn't. In a technology survey, 32% of farmers in America had broadband internet speeds over 2 megabits per second, and 6% are still dealing with dial-up. 2 megabits may be fine for email and some surfing, but with more and more agriculture sites offering more and more features, 2 megabits is far from enough. 90% of farms use the internet, but half of all farmers said that they would use it more if speeds were higher. While the internet may be slow to get to rural America, about 30% of all farmers surveyed have and use a smartphone. You gotta get those angry cat YouTube videos somehow. That's it for this week. I'm Monica Becker.
Week 2 of our Crop Guys, and this week we start in Shelby County with Matt Bennett. Matt, how are things in your area? Are you in the field yet?
Well, we've worked a little bit of ground. We're kind of waiting right now, actually, to see if we get moisture here this week like they're calling for. We really don't want to plant any corn ahead of a big rain, and then they're talking about temperatures cooling back off, but we're certainly raring to go right now.
So the soil is ready to go. Are you doing some field work?
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of field work on ground that's going to be planted beans later on. It's kind of greening up a little bit, and we don't want to have to be dealing with weeds. We have a couple, 3 weeks of wet weather, so we're going to go ahead and work a little bit of ground until rain chases us out. But we're not going to start planting corn until we get past this weather event.
Now, did you have to add any nitrogen?
No, we haven't as of yet. Right now, we're going to probably, most years what we do is we put a fair amount on in the fall, and then we come back in and we add some by way of side dress after the corn is up. pretty much every year because we like giving it a split shot anyway. So
Right.
yeah, we'll be adding, but it's by design instead of because of the weather.
So the soil is ready to go. Are you doing some field work?
Well, it just depends on how much rain we get. If we don't get a whole lot of rain, we'll be in the field planting corn within a week. If we get a fair amount, it'll just be a matter of how long it takes to dry out.
Okay, and how are the soil moistures around your area?
Most of our tiles are running, so we're sitting in a really good place. There's a fair amount of topsoil moisture, so there won't be any problem with germination. So we're pretty excited actually about the way the soil, profile is right now as far as moisture goes.
So excellent. Well, let's hope this is, of course, everybody hopes this is a better year than last year, right?
Most definitely.
Okay.
So Matt Bennett of Shelby County, thank you so much. We'll be talking to you in about a month. And now our friend Todd Wachtel down in Effingham area. How was your winter, Todd?
Well, it's been kind of a long winter because normally we spend the whole winter hauling grain, but we didn't have a bushel of corn on the farm this winter, so we just had a few bushels of beans to haul, so we had to busy ourselves with other things. So we did some shop remodeling and getting machinery ready for spring.
So how is your spring shaping up?
Well, yesterday we decided we'd go out and try a little bit of anhydrous just to make sure everything was going to work, and if it didn't work, we'd have time while it rained to fix it, but it worked better than we thought, so we're still running today.
So you're adding anhydrous to the cornfields. How is the nitrogen level from last winter? I can't imagine last year you used a bunch.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say how much carryover there would be. We assume there's some nitrogen carryover, but like I said, you don't know how much, so you just put on what you need to grow the crop that's in front of you. So.
Okay.
What are your neighbors doing? Are they planting yet?
Haven't seen anybody planting yet. Heard rumors over by Greenville. There's a few fields planted, and don't even see a lot of tillage work right now. It's just we're in the infancy of the spring, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, they want to get going, but they probably know better, right?
Correct.
Okay. So how is the soil moisture down there?
Like I said, it's just now dry enough that we can even get in the fields. There's seen 3 or 4 other neighbors out running anhydrous, and that's about it. But we certainly don't. It would be fine with us if we missed all the rains this week.
Yep. When it rains, it pours literally, doesn't it?
Right. Our soils down here, we don't take a lot to get to the saturation level. So, we always say, we're a week or 10 days away from a drought. So, we don't need a lot of rain. We just need it quite often.
I seem to remember somebody telling me that last year. I don't want to hear that again, right?
Right.
Okay.
Todd Wachtel, thank you very much. Now, next week, 2 more crop guys. Right now, well, last year I was sympathizing with a farmer about how the drought had baked his corn crop, and laughing he said to me, "So how is your corn doing?" Fair enough. It was easy for me to be objective because I didn't have a horse in the race. I don't have ground. I'm not a farmer. I work with video cameras, for crying out loud. What experience do I have? Well, this year, it's different. Announcing the 2013 Four Rivers AgReport test plot. I've arranged with Stephen Malhorn of the Eastern Illinois University Biology Department and the manager of the Toot Greenhouse on campus to help me with our our crop. We started with a small bag of donated field corn seed. Thank you, Dave Smith. And then
our experiment here is to see if we can grow corn in Illinois. I've heard tales of corn being grown in Illinois, but I don't know if it's ever really been done before. So we've set up an experiment in our courtyard raised bed, and we put in 3 rows of field corn spaced 30 inches apart, and the seeds are put in intervals of 6 inches and 2 inches deep. I am going to be weeding, but I'm going to leave the plants to the whim of nature. So whatever happens out in the wilderness of Illinois to the corn will also happen to the corn here in our garden.
Okay, granted you guys don't have a building blocking your corn from the wind and all that, but then again, you don't have college kids coming home late on a Saturday night walking through your fields. I'll be posting a picture and reporting on my crop report during the course of the growing season, and we'll compare my yields to the crop guys and the state average. I expect I'll even be twittering the progress, so stay tuned. Oh, and one more thing, no crop insurance for this farmer. I'm going old school. And with me for this week's Under the Four Rivers Sky segment is Cameron Craig. And Cameron, this is the time of the month we looked at the last month.
That's right.
And March was both a little bit lion and a lot of lamb.
Yeah, that's very true. And, you know, we had a nice big snowstorm that helped us through that, kept the drought at bay. But as far as temperature is concerned, we had temperatures at, the average temperature at 37.2, and the 30-year average is 42.2, so that left us 5 degrees below the average. As far as precipitation, we did not do so well. Based on our station here on campus, total precipitation for the month of March was 1.15 inches. That, compared to the 30-year average of 3.49, was down 2.34 inches. So my concern is that a lot of farmers are saying the drought is over.
Right.
We have to be very careful about that, because what could happen is that if we don't get enough precipitation in the month of April to fill in the gap, what we left in March or even February, we're going to start heading towards that drought situation.
So in short, we need to continue to get a little bit surplus every month until...
That's right. And unfortunately, we're hoping that we get that surplus during April because we got to have that moisture in the ground, but it's hard to get the seed in the ground if there's a lot of rain.
Right. A lot of people are waiting with sitting on the tractor with the planter right behind them. So Cameron, what were the temperatures like for March?
Well, at the beginning of March, it was chilly. It was very cold. We were in the 30s, and then the maximum temperature rose to 62, which gave people the idea, oh, spring has finally arrived.
Right.
But then, things turned south again. We hovered into the lower 40s, and then we went back up into the upper 50s for a little bit, and then we stayed in the lower 40s and upper or mid 50s for the rest of the month. And then we rose back up into the 60s.
So March, in typical fashion, started out cold and it warmed up, but not as much as normal, right?
That's right. And what we usually call this is a roller coaster effect, and it's because of the changing of the seasons. We're waiting for the sun to get overhead at a higher angle, and so we get these roller coaster type temperatures and fluctuation of the jet stream.
So a little bit colder than normal, a little bit drier than normal.
Yes.
And everybody's wanting to plant. What is April looking like long term?
April is looking a little bit warmer than normal, and then the slight better chance of precipitation for the month as well.
So hopefully, from your lips to the
farmer's
ears.
I hope. Yes, that's right. That's right. And if I'm wrong, don't come after me.
Well, that's okay. We have to have you back anyway. So I'm going to have you back.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Killo with your Insight Extension. The Four Seasons Gardening Telenet series is your chance to learn from leading lawn and garden experts. There is no charge for these telenets, and they are open to the public. Dates and topics include April 9th, Spruce Problems, Pest and Cultural; April 23rd, Pollinators and Insecticides; May 7th, All About Tomatoes, Strategies for Controlling Common Pests and Disorders; and May 21st, Don't Doubt the Drought. The telenets will be conducted in Charleston, Arthur, and Shelbyville. To learn more and to register, go to our website. Give your brain a workout. Sign up for the brain training to be held on June 17th and 24th from 1:30 until 3 p.m. at the Shelbyville Senior Center. Extension educator Sherry Burcham will be teaching this class as part of the Lakeland Community Programs. Register now at lakelandcollege.edu. All ages are welcome. And don't forget, we are now on Twitter. Follow us at UI Extension 19 to receive updates on agriculture, master gardeners, family life, 4-H and youth, and more. As always, like us on Facebook and visit our website to stay up to date on our programming. From U of I Extension, serving Coles, Cumberland, Moultrie, Douglas, and Shelby counties, this has been Jessica Killo with Insight Extension.
Well, that's it for this week. We're on Twitter. Make sure you follow us so you can keep track of the progress on the Four Rivers AgReport test plot. We'll be taking pictures periodically and compare how we're doing against what you're doing. So until then, work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers AgReport. You know, on the Four Rivers Ag Report, we're always looking for news that is of interest to the agricultural and the rural communities. Every week we scour the local papers, the state and national websites. We talk to lots and lots of people every day looking for information that will help and or entertain you. There is one more way that we can find out the latest news, topics, trends, and events that are part of your life. You can tell us. We'd love to hear from you about what's going on in your town, on your farm, or even on your neighbor's farm. If you got a topic you'd like us to talk about, let us know. I probably won't know the answer, but I probably know people who do. Please let us know what is happening. You can call us at 217-581-7245. You can email us at weiu@weiu.net, or on Facebook at WEIU TV, Public Broadcast Station. And if you tweet, we're on Twitter at 4RiversAg. So now that you got a number, don't be a stranger.